With money, we dream about the wins, but it is the mistakes that keep us up at night. So what are the biggest mistakes that investors are currently making, and what can we do to stop them? There are some that say that you need to avoid certain types of assets. Others say you only need to invest in certain assets. Instead, I'm going to give you 4 mistakes that I commonly see investors continue to make and exactly how to avoid those mistakes. Let's go ahead and break it down. The first one is not considering the full picture or not looking at context. And this is something I try and repeatedly bring up, but a personal example is this for me, crypto, right? I've been bringing this up, not Crypto, the dog from the Superman movie. No, but I say that because my son's was very confused about that. But in either case, when I talk about crypto, I've been a critic of cryptocurrencies. However, by the time I'm doing this, cryptocurrencies, or at least Bitcoin, is very high. Coinbase is very high. Like, those are 2 very valuable assets. The context, though, and we knew this going back to November, that the president was very pro-crypto. He has his own meme coin out there, and he promised to pass a law, and that law was signed on last Friday. Here's the thing, though. The context was there was a pathway for crypto to continue to do well, at least in this administration. Therefore, it didn't really make sense for me or anyone else to sell out of crypto and completely get out of it. Now, I may think and feel that we may not know enough about crypto. I may think and feel that 90% of my money should not be in crypto. Now, I still hold a little bit and still hold to that rule, but it didn't make sense to sell and run for the hills, even when crypto did have that very severe dip not too long ago. But still, that is context. When you don't have that context or you completely ignore it, that can be a major mistake that people tend to make. And we have continuously seen that over and over again. Sometimes you want to take yourself out of it, zoom out, and look at the entire picture before making a decision or before even investing in something too. There are so many other investors that don't look at the entire picture when they're going to buy an investment. Is there a merger going on? What's the competition? What is the global environment, and everything in between? So always consider the full picture before buying and selling. Number 2 is one you likely don't expect, and it is limiting your media intake, your media diet, your financial media diet to be more exact. You don't need every single notification, and you don't need to be informed about every single thing. Like, yes, you do want to know generally what is going on in the market and the economy so you know when to make certain moves. However, as I've stated multiple times in multiple places in multiple ways, I only make changes to my portfolio twice a year, okay? You don't have to do that. I'm just telling you what I do, okay? Here's the thing, though. When you consistently get inundated with notifications every single day, all the time, you are more prone to get a notification that is going to scare you. It is going to force you, or at least make you feel more anxious. Quick time out. I know we've been talking a lot about investing today. However, if you don't know where to start or you haven't started yet, I have a free guide on how you can buy your first stock in just 20 minutes. To get that free guide, check out the link right here. All right, back to the video. And that is by design. That is because media organizations, news organizations are looking for your attention. And what gets your attention more? Positive news or negative news? Like, there's a reason why when a storm comes, they put people in the eye of the storm, right, to tell you how bad it is raining and tell you how deep the flood waters are. Because it gets your attention and you stare at the screen, usually when it is very bad, terrible information. Now, that's not 100% of the time, but when a stock falls, when something crashes, they're going to alert you and say, hey, this thing is bad in the economy. There are also good things. Hey, this stock hit a 52-week high, so on and so forth. But all those notifications, you are likely to make a bad decision or be biased towards something that you may not need to know every single day, because you shouldn't be making financial decisions in your portfolio, keyword in your portfolio, every single day. Those things aren't necessarily healthy for you, so you want to be extremely careful about how you manage those things. I think I've mentioned this before too. The thing that I do is I actually limit my notifications. I put it on work mode from 10 to 5. So unless you are on my special contact list, your calls don't get through, push notifications don't get through, I'm not seeing it unless I am purposely looking for it, and for obvious reasons, I still know a fair amount of what is going on in the market and everything in between. So you don't need all of those things at all times, because again, you're not a day trader, nor should you be a day trader in my view. Number 3 is assuming things won't change with any stock or any investment that you do have. And this is something I've seen that is really dangerous, or can be really dangerous. And that is, for example, let's say that you own a stock like Tesla, or you own a home, right? This really happens with a lot of homeowners too, but I'm not picking on them, at least today. And that is, hey, I've got this stock and it's done 40% in the last X amount of years. And people assume like this is what it's going to be from here until the end of time. And there's this overconfidence of, hey, this is how I've been used to getting these types of returns. It's always going to be this way. Or even dividend investors. This can happen too, where, hey, I'm used to getting a very specific dividend. I'm going to get this dividend from now until the end of time. Those dividends are not guaranteed. Now, yes, there are companies who have paid a dividend or even an increasing dividend for 50 plus years. However, dividends are not guaranteed, and there have been some companies where I have personally experienced when I was an advisor where people were real mad at me, calling, cussing me out when companies cut their dividend as if I was the one that cut them. I ain't cut them dividends, okay? But that has happened, and if I remember correctly, I think GE did this back in 2017, 2018, because I remember where I worked and what desk I was at when they called and cussed me out. One, I didn't tell them to invest in that stock at that time. They had that stock when I took over that account. And then 2, what control did I have that was going to cut the dividend? In either case, that can happen. They do that to save money, to restructure the company, or they may be running into financial issues. In either case, some people would just, hey, look, I got this company for the dividend. It's going to pay this for forever and ever, and I'm going to live off these dividends. We don't know that. And that's another reason why I go back and reevaluate and review my portfolio from time to time, because I don't know if those stocks are always going to be what I assume them to be. There are some companies like Domino's Pizza that was incredibly good back, 2020, 21-ish, and I had to sell. Apple, I'm going through this with Apple right now with myself, where I'm like, you might be out of my portfolio. You have been so good for so long. What if it is time to get rid of that stock? What used to be may not always be. So we can't always assume that because this has been the norm for the majority of our life, or what you are used to, that it is always going to be that way. And that's an extremely bad mistake to make, because you will go down with the ship and there's nothing you can do about it at that point. Next is perhaps the most common, and that is not having patience. You absolutely want to have patience and allow the market to work. We've had all the statistics about how many times the market tends to recover and how many times the market is positive, but I think 2025 to this point of the year has been a case study in this. And I have not forgot the people who called me dumb in the comment section. And I noticed that y'all have not come back and commented after the market hit an all-time high. Your boy ain't forgot, okay? But in either case, I said earlier this year, the market was falling apart, the market was crashing, and those things were true. We were definitely in a correction. It looked like things were absolutely going to fall apart. I said remain calm. I said to continue to invest. I said to add more cash, right? But I said that it was absolutely possible for the market to recover, and that 2020 was a decent case study because things were worse. Like, we could come back from worse. And we did, right? Just a little bit of patience absolutely paid off to this point of the year. Now, I'm saying that because I don't know what's going to happen between now and December of 2025. I'm reserving that because I still don't have a crystal ball, but I'm still saying that patience is something that you should have. And if you do not have it, it can cost you, because those who sold out of their 401k and took everything out lost that opportunity, and they still may be losing that opportunity today. Also, people who sold everything aren't focusing on the positive of the stock market too. Yes, there were points of this year that the stock market was not great. That is absolutely true. However, how many stocks on this here channel have we talked about that have been up 30, 40, sometimes even 50% that we've covered. That goes back to the other earlier point of limiting your media diet, because while yes, tariffs have been bad, yes, the stock market has been rocky, but there have been dozens of stocks that we have talked about that have been incredible, but you would not have known about it if all you were looking at was negative news and negative notifications this entire time. When the market is bad, go and look for the positives, right? Go and look for, okay, look, this is bad. What is working right now? And sometimes, I would say more often than not, there are pockets of the market that are working. Walmart for a while was that example to go to. Every now and then there is a spot of shade that you can move to in the market to say, hey, the profits are over there, as opposed to standing still, getting fried by the sun and just sitting there complaining. But if you already panicked because you didn't have patience, if you were just inundated by negative news, then you wouldn't have known that. If you weren't subscribed to this channel, then you wouldn't have known that. So you want to make sure that you are paying attention to those things. If you want to know what some of those stocks are and where you can find them, as well as the tools and apps that you can use to buy those stocks, you want to check out this video right here.